Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Alright, this is, again, kind of a makeup podcast for this past week, so I'm just going to roll through all the topics I was planning on talking about. Pretty much... Alright, did I do one Monday? I think I did one Monday, right? Hold on, gotta check that out. My schedule's getting a little rough right now. With how often they're, so I got one in Monday. My schedule's kind of up and down now that I'm working. Although, if all goes according to plan, this will be my job in the future. So, that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Anyway. So, Ezekiel Elliott signed with the Pats. Dalvin Cook signed with the New York Jets. Now, Elliott's he's had... I mean, I'm not the only one that realizes he is regressing slowly. So, I mean, he'll be running back one with the Pats. He won't have to split carries like he did with Pollard last year. So we'll see how effective he is. I mean, the Patriots... Bill Belichick has been able to make average running backs look really good, so we'll see how it works out for them. As far as Cook goes, with the Jets, he'll be a good addition. He's probably going to split carry with Breece Hall once he's fully healthy. Although I do think he'll take most of the carries. Just because of the fact that it's, Dalvin Cook. And, as good as Hall and Cook are, I'm just not sure if they can, overcome that offensive line. I feel like that might be tough. But I think the Jets, like I said, same prediction as always, 11 I said 10-7 before. The signing of Dalvin Cook brings them to probably 11-6, I would say. So they'll have a successful season. They're going to be heavily held back by their O-line, though, in my opinion. Okay, so Peter King said that Jordan Love will be shakier his first year than Rodgers and Brett Favre were. Sorry. Now, I think that probably goes without saying, Jordan Love. So you look at Favre and Rodgers, and their first season as a Packer, Rodgers was 4th in passing yards, 4th in touchdowns, 6th in passer rating. Favre was also 6th in passer rating, 8th in touchdowns, 9th in yards, and 92 for Brett Favre. Jordan Love, I don't think he's going to be a top quarterback right away. And I know people are saying, oh, he's heading into year 4. But it's year 1 as a starter. It's not necessarily the same thing. Aaron Rodgers went 6-10 in his first year. Let's not forget that. I think a lot of people, because of how great Rodgers has been these past few years, they've forgotten he was 6-10 his first year. He didn't make the NFC Championship every year. 2008, his first year as a starter, 6-10, 63% completion percentage. Um, 13 interceptions. But after that, Rodgers only threw in the double digits for interceptions 2 more times. 2010 he threw 11, and last year he threw 12. So, just because, and that was in Rodgers was heading into year 4 at that time. 2005, 6, and 7, he was sitting behind Brett Favre. Year 4, he was ready to go. Same as Jordan Love. And Rodgers was not that successful, as many people like to believe. So no, Jordan Love might not be the best. The good news is he has a very solid roster around him, with a lot of promising young receivers like Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. They also have one of the best running back duos in the league, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. They may not be Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook, but they are a solid running back pair. So, yeah, Jordan Love, I got them going like 7-10, 8-9, probably the Packers. They're not, they might be fighting for a playoff spot considering they're in the NFC, which is kind of a joke of a conference at this point. Which I predict will be dominated by the Eagles and Niners this year. So, yeah, we'll see where they end up, but, I don't think this season they can really freak out that much. So Zach Martin ended his holdout on Tuesday. And I do think part of the reason the Cowboys are finally jumping on it, because think about it. For a while, it was just like, they weren't worried about it. They were being patient. I think a lot of it has to do with Dak's performance in practice. I don't think they would be worried about signing Martin that much if Prescott wasn't struggling in practice. I think they see how he's performing and they're thinking, oh, we better get him some protection. So, all right. So Brock Purdy, obviously I think the starting job is his to lose. Again, 8-0 last year when he played the full game. The one game they lost to the Eagles was when Purdy got injured. So I don't see why he wouldn't be. If he's fully healthy, I don't see why he wouldn't be the starting quarterback. And that roster, that team's going to be great. They will be. So they're in the Super Bowl for me in the NFC. I think they're going to play either the Bengals or Chiefs. As repetitive as that sounds from last year, I would love to hear a counter argument to that. I think they beat the Eagles this year if Purdy stays fully healthy. Because I think they have a better defense. I think they just have an all-around better roster. As great as I think the Eagles are, I don't think they're as well-rounded. And I like Nick Sirianni, but I think Kyle Shanahan's better. All right, so Marcus Allen says the NFL running back position is almost like collusion, and he obviously he was asked about Josh Jacobs, and the running back position it's being devalued. I mean, you can't argue that. Whether it's undervalued is debatable. I mean, I don't think it is because, running backs aren't getting paid much. That's because they're like I said, if you look at the past few Super Bowl champions, they did not have excellent running backs. You had the Chiefs last year. The Rams had Cam Akers. But the year before that, the Buccaneers, who they have Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. Year before that, the Chiefs again. Year before that, the Patriots. I don't even know who they had. They bounced around from running back to running back. I just don't think as impressive as running backs like Josh Jacobs, Dalvin Cook, Saquon, Derrick Henry are. It's hard to want to pay them that much because none of the Super Bowl teams in the past 5 years has had a top 5 running back. So the running back position, it's not getting paid as much as it used to, but there's not really a reason it should. All right, so Sean McDermott is still working through communication after taking over the defensive play calling. Again, as you guys know, my power rankings, last week I had the Bills 5th. I think they'll take, when I say they'll take a step back, I just don't think they're going to be, 14-3, 13-4. They'll still be successful. They'll make the playoffs. I got them, but I feel like they're going to wind up where they were last year, second round exit. Because, unfortunately, they're in the same conference as the Bengals and Chiefs. It's hard to deal with that. And I don't know if they're prepared. I think teams with a defensive coach tend to be less successful, and they have Sean McDermott, who's great, but he's a defensive coach. When you look at the top teams in the league, they usually have offensive guys. Andy Reid for the Chiefs, Nick Sirianni. For the Eagles, Shanahan. Shanahan for the Niners, Zach Taylor for the Bengals. They'll be good. I think the drama is all, a few, it may have been months ago when Diggs was, when there was the Diggs drama, I did say they take a step back because I do think the more noise there is around the team, the less successful they are, but, I think that's over with, so there's no reason to think they won't be that successful. So, alright. So, now we're on the Wednesday podcast. I was going to open up by talking about NFL expectations. Some of the more interesting teams to me, obviously I thought about the Cowboys a lot, and I know their fans probably think I hate them, but what are you going to do? I'm honestly, I'm not too crazy. I've never been too crazy about the Cowboys the last few years, and why should I? The Cowboys have not won a Super Bowl since 1995. I don't think I have to remind the fans of that fact because they've been told that for 2 decades now. Alright, they haven't went deep in the playoffs in a while. Even the year in Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott's crazy rookie year, they didn't make it. They were second round exit. They lost to the Packers in the second round, as great as they were. The Broncos have made themselves interesting through Sean Payton's comments. Even though he walked back on them, he said them. And now he has to deal with that because if they aren't successful, social media is going to attack him with all they have. And that Broncos team is not guaranteed success, even with Sean Payton. it has the potential to go awry. And I think it is possible Wilson didn't only do poorly last year because of Hackett. Mobile quarterbacks like Russell Wilson tend to age faster than pocket passers like Brady and Rodgers. Mobile quarterbacks age faster. As much as I like Lamar Jackson, he's probably going to age pretty quickly because of how much he moves around. He's not going to be playing till 40. They play Herbert twice a year, Mahomes twice a year. It's not going to be easy. Another team I'm kind of interested in. I mean, obviously the Jets are very interesting as well. That's a storyline to watch. The Dolphins with Tua's health. I mean, every team is interesting in their own way, I guess. I think the Packers, obviously my favorite team. I think they're a big story this year. I think a lot of people are interested in what the Seahawks can do if Geno Smith can recreate his magical run last year. And a team I'm looking at, I don't know if a lot of people are looking at them because they always screw everything up, is the Browns. I'm just interested to see if Deshaun Watson really is done. He had a rough year last year, but then again, he wasn't allowed in the training facility until November. He wasn't just suspended. He was he was banned. He was not allowed in the facility until mid-season. So it was tough. I mean, not that he didn't deserve it, but it was a severe disadvantage. I'm just... He looked really rusty last year. I don't know if he... But then again, the last time he was in the league, he was a top 5 quarterback. He led the league in passing yards, The last year he fully played before... The last full year he played, he was solid. So, we'll see... Let's see how he does. Alright, so Robert Saleh got really frustrated with the O-line on a Hard Knocks episode. And like I said, the question is their O-line. Their roster is solid. And honestly, I like Robert Saleh. I mean, I've been kind of saying he's a question mark. We're not entirely sure if he's the right coach or not. Again, generally, I like to think defensive guys are less successful, but it doesn't mean they're not successful. Yeah, I think from what I've seen of him on Hard Knocks, he comes off honest and confrontational, which I like about coaches in the NFL. Because you can't be passive as a coach. You have to attack any problem with your team. And I feel like NBA coaches would get fired if they were so confrontational. That's why I like the NFL more in that situation. But remember, even Patrick Mahomes went into a Super Bowl with a depleted O-line and got destroyed. He was under pressure the whole game. All he was missing his 2 best O-linemen. Wasn't missing Travis Kelce. Wasn't missing anyone on his defense. He was missing 2 O-linemen, and he got destroyed. You can succeed with Brock Purdy if you have Trent Williams protecting his blind side. The Jets have Elijah Vera-Tucker, but I don't think there's any other reliable guy on their O-line. There's Dwayne Brown. There's Dwayne Brown, who's older. And then there's Mekhi Becton, who we're not sure can stay healthy. Or if he's really in shape. So, figure it all out when the season comes. So, okay. So there was a list, top 25 players under the age of 25. Trevor Lawrence ranked number 15. I think the list is pretty solid. I mean, I love lists, but I also hate them. Because I feel like when I do them, there's a lot to be debated. Like my power rankings last week, I said 6 through 10 can be interchanged. But there's certain parts of a list I think you can't argue. I mean, top 25, under 25 years old. Jefferson, number 1. Parsons, number 2. I think that's pretty locked in. Then you got Nick Bosa, Pat Surtain, Chase at 5, Herbert, Quinnen Williams, Jalen Hurts, Sauce Gardner at 9. I'd probably put him a little higher. Tristan Wirfs at 10. CeeDee Lamb, 14. Lawrence, 15. It's solid. Honestly, Trevor Lawrence, last year, in his last 9 games, he had a 69% completion percentage. He was second in passer rating and touchdown interception ratio. That's ahead of Mahomes in the last 9 games last year. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they got the coach right. Doug Peterson is the right coach for Trevor Lawrence. And it's no coincidence once he got a legit coach, he popped. I mean, that's why I'm high on the Jaguars this year. That's why I put them at number 7 on my power rankings. First of all, they have an easy schedule. So I think they're going to win a lot. They're probably going to be one of the higher seeds in the AFC. Probably top 3, maybe even number 2 with their easy schedule. But I do think, unfortunately, for them, the schedule, their record is not going to show who they really are, and in the playoffs, they're going to be an early exit. But they're going to be solid. And I think in the next few years, they'll be legit contenders. All right, so David Bakhtiari came out. He said his baseline for Jordan Love is way higher than usual for first-year quarterbacks, which isn't shocking considering Bakhtiari's he's in the back end of his career. He probably would like a Super Bowl, and it kind of rides on Jordan Love succeeding faster than he probably will. So yeah, and honestly, for most first-year quarterbacks, it's usually their first year in the NFL. They didn't get to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. So yeah, the baseline should be higher for him than, let's say, Anthony Richardson or, Bryce Young. I don't think those guys are going to do better than the Packers this year. And they shouldn't. They didn't get to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. All right. Dolphin safety Brandon Jones praised Tua. And yeah, if he's healthy, they're a solid team. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. I do think they are a better team than the Jets if Tua stays healthy. But if Tua goes down, that really opens the door for the Jets. Because they're that close. Like, the Jets and Dolphins, very close. They can go either way. I do think it's Tua's health that gives the Dolphins the edge. And I'm not saying Tua's better than Rodgers, but the rest of the Dolphins roster is incredibly solid, and I think Mike McDaniel is a better coach than Robert Saleh. So, it all comes down to Tua's health. All right, so Burrow is favored for MVP this year. I mean, odds don't matter in the preseason because anything can happen. In my opinion, he's a top 3 quarterback in the league. It doesn't shock me that the order was Burrow in first. For MVP odds, Burrow was in first, Mahomes was in second, then Allen, then Herbert, and then Hurts. Not shocking. In my opinion, the top 5 quarterbacks in no particular order, I would say Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Hurts. I would take Hurts out and put Rodgers in. I know, just because Hurts has really only had one good year, so let's not get too crazy. So yeah, I would have Rodgers in that top 5 with Herbert, Burrow, Allen, and Mahomes. So alright, let's move on to this. James White says Belichick always talked about Zeke being on the roster, and this move has been in the process for quite some time. But here's my thing with Boston fans. If Bill Belichick wasn't the GM and coach, so if Belichick was the GM and not the coach, their fans would demand Belichick got fired. They're a slow offense. They don't draft offense well. I mean, they drafted 2 kickers last year. He's bad at drafting offense. And now I'm hearing he wanted Zeke on the roster, even though Zeke has shown great signs of regressing. The most yards per game he had was in 2016, his rookie year. He averaged 108. Then he averaged 98 the next year, then 95, then 84, then 65, then 58, and then 58 again last year. He has regressed greatly, and that's the guy Belichick wanted on the roster. He's not good at offense. He's probably the best defensive coach ever, but he's just not good at offense, and that's not good in today's game, where offense matters more than defense at this point. So, yeah, I mean, if that's what blows my mind about Boston fans, the only reason they're not saying Belichick should be fired is because he's both the GM and the coach. You know, if Belichick was the GM and someone else was the coach, it would be all over Belichick. Alright, so Lamar spoke highly about his chemistry with OBJ, and, OBJ, I think, he's not as effective as he was his rookie year, but honestly, he's done what he had to do in every team he's went to. Even with the Rams, he was effective. I mean, like I said, he was what he had to be. He didn't have to be a number 1 receiver with the Rams, but he was effective. He was there for when he needed to be there, if that makes sense. And with the Giants, obviously, those were his best years. The only place where he wasn't successful was with Cleveland, a poorly run franchise, which isn't shocking. So I think he'll be what he was with the Rams. Doesn't have to be the number 1 receiver. They have Bateman. He'll be solid there. He'll score a few touchdowns at the right time. That's what he has to do. All right, so Breece Hall thinks the addition of Dalvin Cook will bring out the best in everyone, and yeah, I think it gives the Jets 1 extra win for my predictions. Like I said, they were a 10-7 team. I think this brings them to an 11-6 team. Unfortunately, they really have to develop that O-line pretty fast, and they don't have to go crazy. They don't have to get all the best linemen out there. I mean, the Chiefs don't have like these world-class linemen, but they have guys that protect Mahomes well. Like, you don't need Trent Williams to protect Rodgers. You just have to get a solid line. Unfortunately, they don't have that, which is what's going to hold them back from being a Super Bowl contender. All right, so Mike McCarthy says CeeDee Lamb is on a similar progression to that of Devontae Adams and Jordy Nelson. And, CeeDee Lamb, I like CeeDee Lamb. He's a great receiver. I don't know what he's gonna wind up being, but I know right now in this moment he's a solid number one receiver. I mean, I wouldn't take him over Diggs, Jefferson, Adams, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, or Cooper Kupp, but I would say he's a top 7 receiver, CeeDee Lamb. Probably right there at 7, behind Kupp, Hill, Chase, Diggs, Adams, and Jefferson. One of the few bright spots in that Cowboys organization right now, him and Pollard, I think are going to be the best part of that offense. And obviously, Lamb's success starts with Dak, so credit where credit is due. As much as I've criticized Dak over the past few weeks, his connection with CeeDee Lamb is something special. Alright, so James Harden said he wants to make the Sixers uncomfortable. And not shocking, he does that with any team he wants to leave. He did it with the Thunder, did it with the Rockets, did it with Brooklyn, so he'll do it with the Sixers. And this is just who James Harden is. Obviously, if I were them, I would just move Harden if this is who he's going to be. And keep Tyrese Maxey. He's going to be... I think keeping him is key. As well as moving Harden. Alright, let's move to college football. And that would be the end of Wednesday's podcast. Joel Klatt said that Ryan Day is under immense pressure heading into the season. And, I think if you lose to Michigan 3 straight years, you are under pressure as the coach of Ohio State. It's not easy having that job. It's a very successful program. You can't... And I think that being a successful program is... obviously it's great for the program, obviously, but for getting people NFL ready, it's not. That's why I think CJ Stroud... Well, if anyone's going to be a bust in this draft, I think it's going to be C.J. Stroud. And this is the same thing I said when Mac Jones was going to be the quarterback for the Patriots. Or when Mac Jones was entering the draft, Alabama and Ohio State, they don't produce great NFL quarterbacks because everything is cut out for them. They have such a perfect position. And, to Bama's credit, we're not sure if Tua is a great quarterback yet, but, Jalen Hurts looks solid, but that's it, really. Before them, the last quarterback was Ken Stabler that did anything in the NFL. So, alright. So Thursday's podcast, I was going to open with, I was pretty much opening with the same message I've been trying to get to you guys the past few days. To win in the NFL, you need a great coach, great O-line, great quarterback. And obviously, I think if you have at least 2 of those, you're likely to win your division. So think about it. Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the AFC East. So I think the Bills are going to win the division. Mahomes is the best quarterback in the AFC West. Andy Reid's the best coach. I think they're winning the division. Trevor Lawrence is the best in the AFC South. Would also say Doug Peterson is the best coach in the AFC South. I think they win. The Jaguars win that. I think Mike Tomlin's the best coach in the AFC North, but I think Joe Burrow is the best quarterback. So, in that case, the best quarterback, in my opinion, is going to win that division. Joe Burrow with the Bengals. Then NFC East, best quarterback, Hurts, and the best coach, Nick Sirianni. The Eagles win the NFC East. And then the NFC West. So, it sounds crazy, but I might be saying Geno Smith is the best quarterback heading into this season. I don't know how crazy that sounds, but he's more proven than Brock Purdy is. And, Stafford's coming off a bad season. We're not sure if he's going to bounce. I mean, you can say the same thing. That's why for this division, I think it comes down to the best coach, which is Kyle Shanahan. Niners winning the NFC West. Then in the NFC South, Derek Carr is the best quarterback by far. I think the Saints win the NFC South. NFC North, kind of a tie between Goff and Cousins for the best quarterback. We're not sure if Fields or Love are the guy yet. We know Cousins and Goff, we know what they are. Not the best quarterbacks, but they do the job. So they're kind of in a tie. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. But I'm going to take the Lions in that division regardless. But yeah. So it's not a coincidence that when one team has one of either the best O-line in the division, the best quarterback, or the best coach, just one of those things, you would think those teams win the division. You know, and most of those quarterbacks and coaches have been there for a while. Bad franchises always seem to be switching, flip-flopping from different quarterbacks to different coaches. For example, the Browns. Been through multiple coaches the past few years. They're a horrible franchise. You know, but these guys that I have winning divisions, you know, they all have a great quarterback, great coach connection, and you know, they all have a proven quarterback coach connection. So I guess the point I'm trying to get at is it's just another way of saying great coach plus great quarterback plus great O-line equals success. All right. God, I talked a lot about the Jets in this past week. Yeah, so Rodgers said that the Jets need to figure things out on the O-line, and I mean, it's good that they know the problem. They know they're not trying to tiptoe around it. They are trying to figure it out. The problem is they have a tough defensive schedule. You know, it's not going to be easy. Even the Patriots, who they play twice a year, even though the Jets are a better team, the Patriots have a tough front seven. You know, that's a one strength. Of the Patriots, and the one weakness of the Jets is their O-line. And, when you look at last season, so the Jets opened up with the Bills, who were second in scoring defense last year. Then they go to the Cowboys, who were tied for third in sacks. Tied with the Patriots, who they play in Week 3. The Chiefs were second in sacks. They played them Week 4. Broncos are a solid defense. They played them Week 5. Eagles were first in sacks last year. They played them Week 6. And then they get the Giants, who are also a pretty good defense. So, yeah, it's not going to be easy. I think they'll have a successful season, but they're going to have to figure out a way to fix this offensive line issue. All right, now I want to talk about Trey Lance. Honestly, not a very high ceiling. I think we can all agree. I know we haven't seen a lot. I haven't seen enough to conclude that he won't work out, but I have seen enough to conclude it's a low ceiling. And this does happen to a lot of quarterbacks. Trey Lance is not a failure. He's just not a franchise quarterback, at least on the first chance. On the first chance he gets, he's not a franchise quarterback. And this happens to 50% of first-round quarterbacks. And 75% of draft picks. Like, when you think about, there's like 6 franchise quarterbacks in the league right now. It's rare that you find a franchise quarterback. They don't come very often. So let's think about it. If you were to name all the franchise quarterbacks in the league right now, Rodgers, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, that's 5. Then maybe you can throw in Lamar or Hurts. So maybe 6 or 7. But that's not a lot. There's 32 starting quarterbacks in the league. I can only name 6 or 7 that have the potential to be a franchise quarterback. So Trey Lance isn't a disaster. He just has a low ceiling. All right, let's stay on the Niners for a second here. Shanahan says he's unconcerned with the amount of picks Brock Purdy is throwing at camp, and the thing is, so Dak is also having this problem, obviously, at camp where he's throwing a lot of picks. The problem with Dak is he has to be accurate. He has to be a solid, high-end quarterback for the Cowboys to have a good chance this year. The good news is, in Shanahan's system, you can make mistakes. So the year the Niners made the Super Bowl with Jimmy G, he threw 13 picks and 27 touchdowns. So he was good enough. He wasn't crazy, though. He threw 13 picks. He made mistakes. And if Trey Lance does that, it's not going to hold the Niners back too much. All right, so Shane Steichen said that Anthony Richardson is a special quarterback. There aren't many people who can do what he does. And like I said, I think he struggles his first year. Richardson, I see a lot of talent there, though. So, kind of like unlike Trey Lance, I see a high ceiling on Anthony Richardson. I think he's going to have a very Josh Allen first year where he struggles. He moves around a lot. Takes a while to get used to the NFL. But once he does, he's going to pop. All right. So, I guess I should talk about Jordan Love here. Okay, so I've given my expectation for the Packers. It's like 7-10, 8-9, not anything crazy. Love will struggle a bit, But I think he'll prove to be better than a lot of people are expecting him to be. He's going to play again in the preseason finale. I know some people might want to ignore this, but he has looked very good in his last... I know it's a preseason game, and you hope that they'll do good. But there's, for some reason, a lot of critics on how he's playing the last two games, which I don't get. He had a 137 quarterback rating yesterday, a 112 quarterback rating last week. He threw a touchdown in both games with no picks. And he's a combined 12 for 18 with his passes. I don't see anything to complain about. Unless you really want to nitpick. Alright. On that note, Big 12 coaches expect Arch Manning to be the Texas starter over Ewers. So Quinn Ewers is 1-4 against ranked teams with a 50% completion percentage. Unranked, he's 5-0 with a 66% completion percentage. Now that's a problem because if you want to be a solid college quarterback, you have to play well against ranked teams. And, with Quinn Ewers, I see a lot of Zach Wilson not in their play. It's just Zach Wilson has a similar problem where he looks good because he played unranked teams. That's why he was able to put up his impressive stat lines were carried by his performances against unranked teams. But if you looked at his performances against ranked teams, Zach Wilson was not impressive. And neither is Quinn Ewers. So in order for Quinn Ewers to keep the job, he's going to have to dominate. I think Arch Manning is better. The question is, when will he take over? It's a question of when, in my opinion. Alright, so Rodgers had high praise for Garrett Wilson, saying he makes difficult things look easy. And, I'm interested to see how Rodgers connects with Wilson. I think it's going to be similar to Watson last year. Where, yes, they will connect, and they'll have a solid connection eventually. But it might take... I think the first few weeks, Rodgers will target... Call me crazy, but I think he'll target Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb more just because he's familiar with them. And probably by week 5, Garrett Wilson's the number one target by that point. Yeah, but I'm excited to see what they do. All right. So Kurt Warner, it believes Baker can thrive in a Tampa system. I don't see why he would. He's very inaccurate, Baker. I think that's clear. And, I think that's just how he plays. There's nothing you can really do to stop that. That's just who he is. So, yeah, the Bucs for me are our last place team this year. Okay, so former Steeler, now an analyst, Ryan Clark, said George Pickens is much more talented than Justin Jefferson, who happens to be the best receiver in the league currently. Yeah, no. I like George Pickens, but it's like a CeeDee Lamb situation. I like George Pickens, but not as much as I like other receivers, like Hill, Adams, Chase, Diggs, Jefferson. And I think Lamb is better than George Pickens at the moment. Alright, I know I said I hate doing lists. But I am about to do another one. Because... So on Wednesday, Colin Cowherd did a list of best quarterback receiver duos. You know, I like the guy, but I think there's a lot of misses here. I am going to include Kelsey and Mahomes on this list. Just because that's... I know he's not really a receiver, but I think a quarterback tight end connection is it's very similar. So anyway, number 10, I have Stafford and Kupp. Just because last year they were ineffective. I mean, I feel bad putting them this low, and I could be dead wrong. But, you know what, Stafford and Kupp, I know last time they were together they won a Super Bowl, but I'm not sure if their connection is going to get back to that point. So I put the number 10. Number 9, I have Tua and Tyreek Hill. My concern with them, again, is Tua's health. But last year they did very well together. So I think number 9 is a good spot for them. Number 8. Screw it. I'm gonna make a last second switch here. I'm gonna put Rodgers and Wilson at number 10. I had them at 6 just because I really think they're gonna do a great job together. But I think just because they haven't played together yet, I have to put them at 10 because that's the only fair way to do it. So yeah, I'm really high on Rodgers and Wilson. I think they'll do great together. But unfortunately, because they haven't played yet, I'm putting them at 10. So that moves Stafford and Kupp to 9. Tua and Hill to 8, and Herbert and Allen to 7. Herbert and Allen, I think we all know how good they are together. The only reason they're number 7 and not higher is because I like these other duos better. Number 6 is Lamb and Prescott. I know I criticize the Cowboys a lot, but this is one of the few things I like about them. The Prescott and Lamb connection is special. And I think it can be very dangerous. Number 5 is Hurts and A.J. Brown. They were deadly last year, and I think they'll be deadly for years to come. And I think that was a great trade for the Eagles. Number 4 is Cousins and Jefferson. Don't think I have to explain that. Best receiver in the league. And a quarterback that understands he's the best receiver in the league. That being said, they are not higher than the top 3. Number 3 is Allen and Diggs. Number 2 is Burrow and Chase. Number 1, because I'm considering Kelsey a tight end receiver, is Mahomes and Kelsey. So, just to run down 10. Rodgers and Wilson. 9, Stafford and Kupp. 8, Tua and Hill. 7, Hurts and Allen. 6, Prescott and Lamb. 5, Hurts and Brown. 4, Cousins Jefferson. 3, Allen Diggs. 2, Burrow Chase. 1, Mahomes Kelsey. Alright, now, I'm going to stay on the topic of receivers here. Darius Slay says Devontae Smith will be the best wideout in the league soon. We'll see. I mean, I really like A.J. Brown. I had Devontae Smith on my fantasy team. He had some good weeks and some really down weeks because, he was overshadowed by A.J. Brown. So, we'll see if his involvement in the offense increases after this season. Alright. Now let's move to Friday. This was the final podcast of the week. So, I started off by saying I've been praising both the Dolphins and Jets simultaneously. Probably more praise for the Dolphins because I have criticized the Jets' O-line. But I was just going to talk about how Tyreek Hill said he looks at Madden ratings to watch the NFL. I mean, honestly, I'm hoping he was joking. I'm hoping he's not he's not preparing for Gardner and Pat Surtain, J.C. Horn, and even Jair Alexander in that case. Yeah, he better not be prepping for guys like that by looking at Madden ratings. Because some of their Madden ratings make no sense. But honestly, if there is anyone that can get away with not watching film and just looking at Madden, it is Tyreek Hill. He's a special receiver. And, again, he said he's shooting for 2,000 yards this year. I mean, isn't every receiver, of course, shooting for that. But, yeah, I don't think he is because he has Jalen Waddle competing with him. Alright, anyway, to move on to Tua, he, was kind of funny. He challenged reporters to repeat an offensive play call. They flubbed it pretty bad. And honestly, the Dolphins, the reason I'm higher on them than the Jets is because I think if Tua stays healthy, the Dolphins can contend for a Super Bowl. They can get there. Don't kid yourself. The thing is, I think the Jets, until they fix that O-line, they're not contending for a Super Bowl. They'll be in the playoffs, but I don't think anywhere further than that. Alright. So the final topic, Friday was going to be a quick podcast. Kevin McHale went off on James Harden and blamed him for his Rockets firing. So, in case you're not familiar, Kevin McHale was the coach during the 2015 playoffs. As always, Harden was underperforming, and he got benched by Kevin McHale. So, and, the way Harden responds to adversity is going full fat suit. Stuffing his face full of food. Or maybe he actually is wearing a fat suit. I don't know what he did with Houston, but somehow he got completely... He somehow was so fat with Houston and then got so slim once he left. Like, it's hard to believe he wasn't doing something, like, to the effect of wearing a fat suit. But, so anyway, I don't think it's a coincidence that they went from going to the conference... They went from a conference finals team to 8th in the West after the McHale firing. Kevin McHale was a solid coach. He got fired because of Harden. And James Harden was asked earlier this week if it was too late to repair the relationship and his response was, I think so. Hey, you think so? You called Daryl Morey a liar and repeated it. You doubled down on it. You think you're done there? Yeah, you're not repairing that. You called Daryl Morey a liar and said you'll never be part of an organization that involves him. And as I said earlier, the fat suit will get him out of Philly, just like it got him out of Houston. So, alright. Look at that. Now our podcast. perfect to make up for the week I missed. Again, I'm going to keep trying to get these podcasts in as much as I can. And, alright. I'll see you guys when I can. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, or iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Have a good day.